So the magic starts with the climb to Coonoor. There is something quite remarkable about the drive up the Nilgiris. The first sight you see are the towering poles of palms. It's the first clue that something special is coming up. Then suddenly the view sweeps open and the horizon is filled with the staggering sweep of its vales and hills, of craggy cliff faces and unimaginably lush forest. It had been 20 years since I'd made the trip and I had somehow forgotten the almost impossible loveliness of what they call the Blue Mountains. Not that the name makes any sense when all around is crisp, glorious green. And then I hit the quiet colonial haven that is Coonoor. It's a bit of a lost world, a charming bypost to forgotten times, where the only sounds are the chirps of birds or monkeys. The dark green of forest has made way for the fluorescent green of its surrounding tea estates. There are flowers blooming everywhere, and Brit-era bungalows dot the scene. The views are dramatic, the charm is quiet, the kind that creeps up on you. And my first port of call is living proof. So to kick off our explorations in Coonoor, here we are at another breathtaking spot. I know, what a surprise. But here's what's interesting. We're not starting as you would expect with some teas. In fact, we're giving you and me certainly the perfect reason to say cheese. And the smile will likely continue once you get a load of grey hills, the delightful 150-year-old home of Shehnaz Setna. Shehnaz has quite the operation, though it's one you can avail of by appointment only, and really start booking now. She is most famous for making cheese, all kinds of them, and she makes them here in her lovely home. Okay, wow, now this is my idea of a treasure chest.
This is a parmesan which was made on the 30th of April. This should at least, before I cut it, it should be with me for at least 6 months.
Wow.
20 to 25 liters of milk would give you...
this much?
Yeah.
Wow.
You have to look after this.
Yeah.
It's like looking after anything that is growing.
And it's a philosophy that they hold dear. Yes, we'll get to the offerings in a bit. First up, you should know that Shehnaz and her husband Homi believe in living off their land quite literally. So to source their produce, they need look no further than their own gardens. Walking into their backyard, I feel a bit like Frances Hodgson Burnett's young heroine, stumbling upon a secret garden. They grow everything. Oranges, plums, cherry tomatoes, trees of all kinds. No, I haven't gone crazy. This is cinnamon bark and it smells amazing. I mean, it's incredible. They have everything they use. They grow orchids, their own basil, radicchio, and even their own honey. Yes, they make honey. And much of this happily is going to be making it to the breakfast table this morning. We start, as we must, with the cheese she's so famous for. And it must be said, that's my kind of wheels. There's some gorgeous Gouda, a sharp light cheddar, and her very own Parmesan. There's a mozzarella melting over a homemade pizza, flavored with basil from just outside the door. I'm taking whatever she's got. However many wheels of cheese are left, I want them for myself. She makes it in her home, in her kitchen, and it's just excellent cheese.
This is a Nilgiri Parmesan, a Nilgiri cheddar. So it will have the underlining Nilgiri flavor. So I do it seasonal, whatever comes at that time, the produce that is available. I don't make too much.
And that's probably a good thing, as I then try her creamy soft cheese, best had with a dollop of her wonderful plum preserves, the plums plucked, you guessed it, from her own plum tree. But the plums, it must be said, are just the beginning. Try the bitter orange marmalade. Again, I assume the fruit looks familiar. I can't remember who composed it, but this, folks, is officially now the bittersweet symphony you have been waiting for. I follow that up with the khatta meetha mango and raisin chutney, and then one made of the local berry, bilberries. They're a bit like blackberries, only lighter.
Anything that grows is so enjoyable, and if you can put it on your plate and have it, I think it's not only tasty. It gives you a different feeling. There is a freshness, there is an availability, there is just the thing of stepping out and taking just as much as you want.
And speaking of what I want, here come the desserts. Thick, gooey slices of her fudge cake, and that, folks, is just the start.
This is not actually a place that I can be flip about because I'm just so completely charmed. I have never felt in my life more as though I have wandered into the pages of an Enid Blyton novel, and I am loving every minute of it.
Yes, I'm pretty sure the famous five never sat down to a spread quite like this. The dense, dark, gleaming confection that is her chocolate cake, which then makes way for this, the homey, hearty, made for this setting fig and honey.
I've been wasting far too much time thinking up puns and ways to be, well, I suppose cheesy. I'm giving up on it because it's distracting me from the task at hand, which is eating as much of this as I can manage.
Yes, well, after all that, I do need a bit of a wander. And Coonoor certainly offers up many places in which to do it.
Alright, so something tells me it might just be time for tea. Only here I'm being served not just tea, but tea and tranquility.
And any exploration of Coonoor would be incomplete without some time spent amidst this incredible green. And yes, for the perfect cuppa, look no further than the Tranquilitea Tea Estate. And yes, the pun is intentional. Once again, I reach the homestay. Once again, I feel as though I have walked into another world. A warm, sunny, wonderful world.
Hello.
Sandeep Subramani is my tea master for the day. And so the tour starts where it should, amidst the fields.
Basically, a lot of things go into the making of tea.
Yeah.
And environmental conditions are one crucial aspect of it. So you have the soil, you have the climate, you have the elevation, and I would say the elevation is the key aspect that determines the final flavor in your tea. So simply put, as a rule of thumb, the higher up the tea is grown, the more flavor the tea has. Not many people are aware of this, but we have the highest tea estates anywhere on the planet at 8,000 feet.
Really?
In the Nilgiris,
Wow.
which makes our teas incredibly flavorful.
What are the nuances that make a Nilgiri tea what it is?
Well, like I said, it's the intense flavor.
Yeah.
It's mostly floral in nature, so the taste itself is typically floral when you have a sip of your cup of tea. And you might be surprised, but there are over 3,000 classical teas that are made in the world. And by classical, we mean teas that are not blended, teas that are not flavored, just as it is.
But now we need to make the move from bud to brew. But not before some lunch. Yes, there's no point to high tea if you haven't had lunch first. And I'm led straight to the spot that puts the tranquil into their tranquility. And as we take our seats, Sandeep's mother and the chef joins us. Plate after plate begins to pile up. This is a feast straight from the hills it sits in.
Basically, our community came into the Nilgiris about 800 years back. What you see, most of the food that you see here has just been probably in the last 200 years, even less than 200 years. Because even the beans that you see there, today we call it traditional, but that was brought in by the British. So they planted these. The potatoes, we had no potatoes before the British came in. They came in 1819. So if you look at it authentically, probably the only two authentic dishes that date back over 200 years would be the sopu, that's the greens, and the bamboo shoots.
So yes, with the bamboo shoot then, we must begin. The Bagras use the youngest part of it, tender spears, not too salted, in a light earthy sauce. And by the way, I'm lucky to get it for more reasons than one.
We get only once a year, the bamboo shoots. And that too just after the rains. The monsoon, just before the monsoon, and just after the rains we get.
And you know, often when you serve bamboo shoot, it's all salty, slightly fermented, very pickled. Here, it's actually fresh. This is what I guess bamboo shoot tastes like, and despite making a career out of eating it, I never actually knew that.
What's next is a real speciality of the area, a robust chicken curry packed with flavor. And then some potatoes that share the spices but taste utterly different.
We have our own masala. Actually, we dry roast all the masalas and we grind it all together. And we have different kinds of masala. For the chicken, it's different. It's roasted blackish, as you can see with the color. And for this, we roast it a little lighter.
That's not all, not by a mile. I then start on the sopu, a sabzi made of local greens. Pungent, yes, but tasty too. Mop it up with their crepe-like whole wheat pancakes, or add some crunch with the sun-dried potato wafers. They're like little bites of sunshine. Best had possibly with some sandige.
Sandige now joins the fairly exhaustive list of my favorite chutneys. And just think how wonderful it sounds. It's roasted, flame roasted tomatoes with flame roasted garlic mixed with local spices. I mean, honestly, if I didn't love it for taste alone, I'd have to love it for the description.
And then there's this, what looks like a rajma curry but is in fact made of fresh kidney beans and is both distinct and delicious. And yes, I did mention that all this is enjoyed as I soak in the sun that no doubt feeds much of the fare. Can things get any better? Oh yes, they can.
So here, these are the times when I really, really, really love my life. What is my reward for extreme overindulgence? More overindulgence.
Hi Aneesha, welcome to the tea lounge.
I know. God, and what a lounge.
I hope you enjoy our teas just as much as the setup.
Absolutely.
Ah yes, it's now time for tea, and no, it's not too much. Okay, maybe a little. Are those 6 spots? For me? Why, thank you.
So that there are tea at the end of the day is a complex beverage. So there are lots of things that are happening within that when you taste them. But broadly speaking, there's flavor on one side and body on the other side. So those are the 2 aspects that you need to look at.
And with that, let the sampling begin.
We've got 6 of the best. So,
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
All right,
hopefully
so
can get-
shall we start?
We're going to start with the handmade black tea. It's the kind of tea that's rolled by hand, and then we'll move on to the CT tea, which is a mechanically processed tea.
Yeah.
Then we move on to another tea called the oolong tea, which is partially oxidized. Then to Baimudan, which is another kind of a handmade tea. Then we'll do the handmade green tea. We finish off with silver tips, which to many tea tasters is considered the pinnacle of tea.
Yeah, lovely. Okay.
Smell it, and just to get the initial notes, and I'll serve it to you.
Yeah, lovely.
So,
Cheers. Oh, that's lovely.
As I quickly work my way through cup after cup, and incidentally, I am completely converted to the Nilgiri bounty. Out comes even more.
That's lovely.
Here's a staggering assortment of tea time fare. Pound cake, buttery and beautiful. Double chocolate cookies, are you kidding me? And wait, a local dessert with banana as its base.
So the tuppa that I have to say is delicious. It's sort of like this dense, deep-fried, desi-style donut.
There's a coconut and jaggery filled bomb of flavor. There's the gooey, gorgeous chocolate and marzipan bars. They're fabulous, but surely this isn't normal. Alright then, so what an afternoon. I got tea, tranquility, and so much more besides.
So traditionally, the cup of tea is what follows the nap in order to wake you up. In my case, as unusual, I'm going to turn things on their head because honestly, after the incredible amount of excess that I have indulged in, honestly, there's no choice but for me to take a break.